Well, we're back, ladies and gentlemen, with the second segment tonight with the one and only Jason Jani. Jason, it's great to see you, man.
John? It's good to see you, man.
It is so fabulous to have you with me tonight. This is something that I've been looking forward to doing, pretty much throughout the winter time, but you've been so busy planning the whole mobile beat world that it's like trying to catch up with my wife chasing the children around the house. It's like a never-ending job for you this year, man. Oh, crazy.
It's been a pretty crazy winter for sure. Absolutely.
But you're going to take some needed time off, so I'm very happy to hear that for you. That's very nice.
Yeah, I'm pumped. Next week, get to relax a little bit, a little sun, a little warmth, and just turn my phone off for once.
Very cool. Well, before you do that, we are going to talk about a variety of different things. I sent a few questions over, but we started talking with Kilma in the first section about getting that phone to ring. And part of that is branding, which a few of our questions are really tying into branding. So we're going to take some of those questions out of order. But the idea of branding is something when we very first started DJing, I don't think that branding was that really something we thought about much?
I guess that answer really differs for everyone, right?
I mean, I'm thinking back to when we started. I don't know where the word branding didn't come into the lexicon until a long time later.
Yeah. I mean, you know what? You kind of did it subconsciously, right? Like you're aware of kind of your presence, but the world was very different. Some people have been started 5 years ago. Some people started last year. Some people started 15, 20, 30 years ago. 15 years ago, if you go all the way back to 2000, 2001, the world is very different. If you go beyond that, it's even way different, because the internet and the Facebooks and the Instagram and everything didn't exist then,
Yeah. And it's just one of those things that it's a different world, and as you said, we probably used by a different name. As we said, we tried to set ourselves apart and such, but it's become such a critical part. And I follow you on different social media things, and it's really become a big part of everything you do is really to have that brand, not only of the company, but you also have your own personal brand out there. So can I talk a little bit about that, the differences between creating the branding of the company and branding yourself personally?
So I guess my recipe is a little bit different, and it could differ for everyone that's in the business. At SCE, we try to we brand the company and the umbrella, and we also brand the individual talent, the individual things that are talent specific options, I guess, offer to our clients, our couples, our brands, and and the people that trust us with their events.
Mm-hmm. And then. Hang on a second. I'm getting to the chat board. So what are some of the biggest between that and your personal brand now? And again, I think in the last probably 2 years, I've really noticed a lot of things that you're doing to brand yourself. Maybe it's been longer than that. Maybe it's just I can't tell time. When you're branding your personal side of the brand, and that's what most DJs being single operators would probably follow that course a little bit more. What kind of things are you wanting to include to make that branding stand out?
Well, I think your brand encompasses a lot of different things. It's not just your logo or the image that you project as a person. I mean, if you're a single operator, your brand could be the type of service that you're providing, the way you dress, the way you talk to people, your style. That it all kind of wraps up, and then it translates over to things like your social media presence, what you're releasing for people to see. In our world, it could be the mixed content that you're releasing, or the remixes if you're a producer, right? Like you could do a lot of different things, all to work with and alongside your brand. Right. So for SCE, we have pretty fortunate to have a very talent-rich crew here. We have 8 full-time hosts that represent the SCE brand, but we have 8 individual brands that cater to different types of people that are looking for DJ services. So we have, the crazy high energy guy, we have the Latin guy, we have this, we have that, we have all different things that kind of work together and ideally as one in terms of options for people.
Interesting. So you've got the main company brand, and then you've got all the different little sub-segments that you are also working to brand those within the company. Interesting. I guess I've not heard that too often, where people are branding, in this case, staff as much as usually it's the owner that's branded, and then the company is branded with that. Let's jump into a couple of the questions, because I took you off on a different direction with that. So, but I want to let's talk about that team, since we kind of were going into that. If you're putting together an entertainment company, what are some things that you look for when you're building that team and getting together that group of people who can work well and be successful?
I think some of the key parts for me was talent. Talent is a huge part of what you try to attract, I guess, as a business owner. But the core kind of like foundation and principles, kind of the ideology, the goals, hustle, all of that stuff goes in, is sometimes more important to me than some of the most, like, I guess, commonly looked for attributes of an entertainer. I like to build with SCE. I tried to build a family. I didn't just put together, powerhouse people. I try to make sure the chemistry is right, because in my mind, that's the most important thing for longevity, right? Mm-hmm. If people are happy, people love what they're doing, good things are going to come from that. And I also like to bring in differences, right? I like to bring people that maybe have specialty areas, right? Someone that can speak Portuguese, someone that can speak this, someone can do this, someone can do that, because then you're attracting other universes together. So I like to have overlapping talent, but I also like to bring people together that offer different things to attract different types of people, right? Different types of clients, different types of events or parties or whatever. So
you're not really out there, and this is, say, we talk about, if I could only clone myself and have a bunch of DJs who do it like me, I'd be great. So you're not looking for people who are maybe that have the same skill set as yourself. You're really trying to diversify.
Yeah, I think you're a product of who you surround yourself with, right? So, like, if you bring people that are really strong in certain areas, it'll only complement the team as a whole. Yeah, I could say that I would want to make 10 of me, but that's not realistic, and it's also not possible, right? So, like, I want to try to bring different creativity to the table so that as a collective, my team is very strong. That's really where I like to, the world that I like to play in,
Do you find yourself, when it comes to interviewing and hiring staff or bring people into your team, is this something that is a collective decision with a committee that you have together, or is this something that you're relying on your kind of gut instinct when it comes time to interview and hire?
I think it's a little bit of everything. We don't just bring people in right away. I mean, there's a process that I like to follow with my team. I make sure that they're fully vested into kind of their security and future with our company. It's not something that happens overnight. I mean, often it could take as much as a year and a half to integrate someone to our team. And to some that are probably watching this, they might say, well, why would I want to do that? But for us, for me, that's been the most successful kind of formula into building something that's sustainable. Some of the hosts that I have working with me at SCE have been around since the beginning. SCE is a company that I originally founded some time ago, but I kind of went a different path. I chased a lot of different dreams. And then in 2009, I kind of reestablished myself. And then from 2009 to today is really how long SCE's been formally in existence. Some of our talent had joined on in 2009 and 2010, so they've been around for the whole ride. Obviously, before we get to a level of bringing someone in fully, they have to do their part. They have to do their do their share of making sure it's the right fit, right? We just can't bring someone in blindly. They got to have the right hustle. They got to have the right chemistry, and they got to blend with the team, right? Because we have a team full of guys and girls that work really, really hard and trying to push the creative bar in different directions.
Nice. Now, when you're bringing that team together and you have them kind of cohesive, what kind of a you mentioned family. What kind of things do you do to kind of build that sense of family with this group of people?
I mean, for our crew, we spend a lot of time together in the office, outside of the office, at events. We have people helping each other out with different things and different events. Next week I'm headed on a little family vacation. One of my clients wanted to to bring me down to Texas for an event that I actually can't do. So we're sending two of our hosts are going to go down there and smash the event. So like we do a lot of things where we're together. Like I never travel when I do a lot. I do a lot of destination events. I travel around a lot. I never really go by myself. I always have someone with me to just kind of like help brainstorm. Someone that you can talk to that understands kind of like where we come from. Especially at a place like Mobile Beat, I had a team of 6 out there.
Yes.
There was a lot of us there. So. Always try to surround yourself with good people. And, I think the family part, it's not something you can plan or design. It just kind of has to happen. And the chemistry is something that you just has to be there. It's like if someone's trustworthy or not, they either are or they're not. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's one or the other,
Yeah. At Mobile Beat, Matt, I think it was Matt Radicelli, talked about the whole idea of having kind of a structure to the management, we'll call it, of the company. Now, are you guys to the point where you have that kind of a hierarchy or have a management where you have people who are kind of working with other people? Or is this something that you really like to have the hands on at this point in time in the company development?
So we're kind of a hybrid of both. I mean, Matt has an incredible business model from Rock the House. I mean, he's someone that I definitely look up to in this industry. He's a very good friend of mine. He's someone I have a tremendous amount of respect for, and he'd be actually a great guest on your show in the future if you haven't had him on yet. But Matt's business and my business are a little bit different. I think the key difference is like between SE and a lot of entertainment companies is we're very talent focused and very talent specific. So like, we do have structure and hierarchy. I do have an office staff. I have a ton of resources around me to help kind of get the job done, right? Think of like last week when we were in Vegas. I was in Vegas for almost 8 days.
Yeah, I was going to say it was over a week.
I didn't even talk to my office one time actually, I texted them back and forth one time when they were like, hey, how are you doing? Is everything okay? Like,
are you alive out there?
And like, we closed like 14 deals when I was away. I have the right people, and half of my team was out with me, in Las Vegas. So we have I'm very fortunate to have selected the right people to to be involved with the business, people that I trust, people that I care for, and people that really do an awesome job. They definitely put the hustle in,
Yeah. That's very cool. That's something I think I'd almost refer to that as kind of a proud papa moment when you can come back and they're like, yeah, everything's great. And we booked 14 shows. And you're like, yeah.
No, it was awesome. I know that, I'm kind of like watching the comments go by and stuff like this. And normally I don't get to do that, but today I actually can. I see people talking about single op and like, being a single op, there's a lot of thought process that goes into large company that can be applied to single operator or smaller company or whatever,
Yeah.
Hustle is still there. If you're a single operator, you might not be able to do as much, but you actually have to do more because you're responsible for the management of the business, the bookkeeping of the business, the expenses of the business, the purchasing of the business. You still have to coordinate everything, and I too was a single op for a very long time, so I definitely understand the hustle,
Yeah,
like
for sure. For sure, and there's just some things that don't go away in that hustle, and as the saying goes, only working half days, the first 12 hours of the day, it all kind of goes together. That it does. Okay, let's see. I want to get to the Mobile Beat one towards the end because then we can drift off and talk more about the behind the scenes because we had a great conversation with Jeremy Breck last week. So I want to save that one so we can have that towards the end. We talked a little bit about the developing of the brand and such. Let's try. I wanted to have give 5 tips to DJs who are just starting out, and then as you see, we've got some single system operators in there. So we'll try to kind of keep it in line with what they're looking for. So, did you have time to get us a few tips?
So 5 tips to building a brand?
We can we can build a brand, or to just DJs starting out if they're going to build a brand. I guess I wasn't as I'm looking at my notes, I wasn't too specific. So,
yeah, I think like the most successful brands are dialed into like what reality is, right? And I feel like that's often like a disconnect. A lot of people that I see in the business, doesn't matter if they're a large company or whatever, single op, doesn't matter where you sit in this universe, in this sandbox we all play in. But I feel that there's a lot of people that are not dialed into what is actually happening around them, right? So they have this great marketing kind of like look, but then again, when the events that are taking place might not fall in line with some of that stuff. So I think it's super important that the person, starting out or whatever, is acutely dialed into what is going on around them, the type of events they're doing, right? So you don't want to have this Tiesto look if you're doing communion parties, unless you're bringing that Tiesto look to those communion parties.
I get you.
What I'm saying? So there's often a disconnect. So stay aware of like what you're doing and the world that you're actually playing in. And then if you would like to achieve something that is maybe different than what you're actually sitting in, make sure that you develop kind of like a strategic plan to kind of get yourself there, right? Like think 6 months out, think 12 months out, think 2 years out, and try to figure out a way that you can kind of maneuver yourself into where you'd like to be, right? Like I'm not thinking about where I am today. I'm thinking about where I want to be in 3 years from now. That's like what I focus on, and like with myself personally, Other tips that I would give anyone creating a brand from a visual perspective: I don't care what it costs. You have to hire a graphic designer that's actually not yourself doing it on your own computer. Spend the time to surround yourself with professionals that do this for a living. I think that matters a lot. And I think the visual difference definitely, can be seen between someone that does it themselves, whether they're aware of it or not, for someone that hire someone. I use Lorenzo from Screaming Lunatic. I've worked with him for like 15 years. He's someone I trust. He's someone I know. He's helped a ton of people that I know in the business. People like Mike Walter, a very good friend of both of ours, amongst hundreds of other DJs, developing their brand, their business cards, their websites, their whatever. I think so. Surrounding yourself with professionals. So we have being aware of what's around you, surrounding yourself with professionals. The third thing I'd say is invest in a very good quality camera, video camera, photo camera, and make sure that you get imaging of every one of your events that you do. I think, we're in a very image and content hungry world. Everyone wants to see what's in store. At SCE, we have, I think, somewhere in the area of 1,100 video blogs that we've done since 2009. I mean, we're continuing to pump them out. And our team, has embraced that, and they've seen kind of what it's done for our company. So when you create great video blogs or you create content, there are people out there looking for it. So, I can't even tell you how many venues that I work in or have worked at that, because I have a video blog up, they've actually booked weddings. Like people have gone on, they've stumbled across this video, which led them to another video, which turned them onto a venue that they didn't even knew was there, or they never even thought of.
Right.
They went in and spent, tons of money and booked their property. So I think having the right equipment to capture and show off what you're doing is super important. We heavily invest in that.
Let's talk about the now having equipment, of course, yay, rah, rah. But what are some recommendations for someone starting out? If that would be kind of a minimum recommendation. I mean, obviously there's brand differences, but if I was wanting to invest in that, where would you recommend I start?
I would, my candid recommendation, and I think I wrote this, and I don't even remember whose book it was quoted in, but like if I could go back in time, when I started doing video blogs, it was in 2009. I was doing an event with David Totero, who's like a celebrity wedding planner. He's on television, all that stuff. Yep. And I went to the store and I bought like a $600 Steadicam Canon or Sony, whatever. It was like one of those hand camcorders. And I literally was like walking with it, and I was like talking like what I had going on. I showed the room and all that stuff. Like if I knew now what I knew then, if I knew then what I know now, I would have spent as much money as I possibly could have dumped into like whatever the best is I could have afforded. I'm not one that blanket spend and invest in everything that you whatever, but like for the capture, if you have the ability to capture content and you have the ability to capture good content, there's a huge difference for what's going to come from that, right? So taking the time to do that and putting your money, as much money as you can at that, I think it's something that will long last and be one of the wisest investments that someone new to the game could do. So if that is that $500 hand camera, or that's a GoPro camera, or that's a 360 camera, all good. If that's a digital SLR with L series lenses, even better,
Right.
And then get the support tools. And then, of course, you have to find someone that knows how to operate it, or hire someone and train them how to operate it to what you're looking for, which is what we've done here at SCE.
let's before we jump to the next one, let's talk about the importance of the edit. How important is that? I mean, if we capture quality footage, how important is it to have a really good quality edit job done of that quality footage? Or will the footage stand alone and do the job we need it to do?
I guess it depends. It depends on what you're trying to achieve, right? Like, so oftentimes I meet with couples and I just show them raw clips. I don't even show them anything that's edited. I just show them what the room was doing. I want them to hear me mix. I want to hear them talk. I want them to see the actual energy. Of course, a slick edit like we did at Mobile Beat or like we do on some of our video blogs and some of our recaps, yeah, that goes a long way. But sometimes that can be a negative. People don't think it's authentic. So, you know, to be candid with you, when I edit my own video blogs now, I spend 20 minutes. 20 minutes is all I do. And if it takes more than 20 minutes, I stop and I come back another day. I can't invest that much time in doing it. There was times where I used to spend 2-3 hours doing video blogs. Wow. You know, so now I'm down to like, okay, I just want like little highlight clips of what the room looked like, maybe the services, the call out moments, you know, maybe a couple different songs just so they can get an idea of the actual celebration. And the pictures speak volumes. You know, people don't want to sit online watching 10-minute videos and 5-minute videos or even 4-minute videos of someone else's wedding. They want to see a minute and a half, 2 minutes, maybe you do a testimonial. And I don't even do like the introductions anymore where I actually talk about what's going on. Every once in a while I do, but very rarely now because people just don't have the time for it.
Right.
You know, at SCE, we're doing these Insta minis and it's something that Jeff came up with. And then we've all kind of like put them out on the SCE Instagram. And for the people that are watching, if you get a chance, I'd love for you to follow myself and SCE on Instagram and Snapchat. But those 15-second little teasers, I mean, they're so powerful. We put one on YouTube. Like the bride shared it. It's got like within like less than an hour, it had like something like 1,600 like, you know, like views and hits. You know, just crazy, like the reach of what's going on right now.
Yeah, isn't it something? Okay, let's see. We were up to 4.
Should we do 4? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. 4. Yeah.
So what do we have? What's our next one?
I think, you know, I think if I could dial back to something
I'm sorry. Yeah.
That was said at, actually, I'll give you the 4th and it's something that came from the Redfoo thing. And that's kind of like living your brand, right? Like, I think that's a big deal for people, you know, like sometimes people want to put on this like smoke and mirrors kind of facade. They go out to the store, they look like a bum, whatever. You know, I'm not saying you have to be dressed like Marcello everywhere you go, but like, my brand is kind of like what you see here. I meet with my couples in sweatshirts and t-shirts and I have tattoos and I wear sneakers and that's like my brand. I mean, when I go to an event, I rarely wear a tie and I could be doing a wedding that's $100 a plate or $500 a plate. I could be working with celebrity clients. It doesn't matter because my brand falls in line with who I am as a person, right? If I walked around in a polo all day, you know, like maybe I would have to have a suit tie on when I do my events. But right. I also make sure that when I go to the store, I'm kind of like in part, like, you know, you got to live it every day. Redfoo recalled the story where him and Sky Blue were going out and Sky Blue was dressed like a bum and he was like in his party rock vibe and they went out and people recognized him, but they didn't recognize his partner from LMFAO, Sky Blue, you know, and I think living your brand is kind of a big deal. And that was something that totally hit home with me. And it's something that indirectly and subconsciously we all kind of do here at SC. I have guys that come in jackets and ties. I have guys that come in sneakers and, you know, like it depends who they are. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And I was going to ask you about that, how it worked with your staff. And I think that they're going to find what's comfortable for them and the image that they want to portray as their brand. And yet the consistency, that was something that I took from that interview you did with Redfoo also, is that he just lives that brand because that is what he's doing and what he's out there doing. It would be interesting if he'd go on vacation.
Yeah.
What he does. I mean, and maybe that's one of the reasons he lives that brand so much in public is that when he steps away and he pulls his hair back and he puts on normal clothes, you'd never recognize him.
Yeah, you know, it's funny. Like someone like him, you know, he's got his like afro, he's got his crazy personality. If you follow them on Snapchat, I mean, they are all over the place. Like, and they bring that energy when they're on a plane going to wherever. They're all dressed, ready to go. Even if they're in their down clothes, they're dressed the part, you know. And that's not just him; it's his crew that he surrounds himself with, you know. And that's kind of like a big deal, you know. So that was a good one that I grabbed from it. Let me see. I don't know. Like, I guess the last one I would probably say is it might sound silly and it might sound 101 to a lot of people, but I think being aware of who you're around is super important. And what I mean by that is like, treat the people in the kitchen the same way you would treat the people that own the venue, right? The people that you come in contact with, smile, be polite, like be aware of what you're doing, because if someone hears you doing something that's maybe not right, or maybe like off color or political or whatever, like there's some crazy stuff that can happen from that. Like I play a lot of nightlife venues in addition to like my private event space, and like there's places I go and like literally like the security like rolls out the red carpet because I talk to them like they're people, not just like they're there to control the crowd, right? Like I talk to the guy that does the stuff in the bathroom the same way I talk to the management, and
Yep.
I mean, of course it's a little different, but like, when you develop personal relationships with people, like it goes a long way. So I think being aware of who you're around and being polite to people and smiling. I don't think people smile enough right now. People are so hard, especially in our business. There's so much to do. We're such in a rush. We're so here, we're so there. And maybe it's just a Northeast thing, but I think when you're polite and you're smiling, you interact with people, I think it goes a very, very long way, because that person tomorrow could be in a totally different role in a totally different venue that could totally help you in some way, shape, or form. And I'm not just saying it for the long term, kind of like what can you get out of this? I heard Kelma before talk about the jab, right hook. It's not about that game. It's about just being like a decent human, right? Like,
Right.
and being aware of who's around you.
Yeah, I think that goes a long way, sowing seeds of goodwill everywhere you go, because when you start to treat people as you would not want to be treated, it's not a cool thing.
If you look at Mobile Beat, when John Taffer came on the stage, he came out pretty level, right? And then like he had the crowd. As soon as he got like in it, that's his brand on the show. He's yelling at people, he's screaming. I mean, like the whole room like locked into what he was saying, and he's like, we're here to make more money, right? And everyone got into it, and it like totally took it to another level, right? So like, just talk about like branding and perception, and like just being aware of. In the green room before he came out, he was like the nicest dude. He's soft spoken. He was cool. Like, and then it's just I think it's an important part of branding. The social part of branding, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good stuff. Good stuff. Well, we've got a little bit more time, Jason. I don't want to keep you too late tonight, but now let's kind of bridge over and let's talk a little bit about the Mobile Beat experience this year and we'll talk a little bit about the behind the scenes. We've already talked a little bit about Redfoo. I want to go into that a little bit more now, specifically because you interviewed Redfoo up on the stage. Now, how did you prepare for that interview?
So it's kind of interesting because I had the opportunity of kind of connecting with him beforehand a little bit, and I just kind of had a connection with him, like just talking with him, it was like talking to someone I've actually known before. So I had prepared a number of questions, but if you notice when I went out on the stage, I didn't have anything with me because I didn't think we needed to go there. I kind of had an idea of what I wanted him to talk about, and then I kind of knew that the conversation could squirrel off into different areas. So from an interviewer, I've never really done a Q&A with someone before. I've never hosted an interview. So say what's up to Jeff.
Hey, Jeff.
Get out of here. What's it called? So when I was kind of like, vibing, I knew how I wanted to kind of start the conversation with him. And when I had the opportunity of connecting with him, it wasn't like I talked to him for 10 minutes. I talked to him for like an hour and a half, So I got to kind of experience a little bit about him as a person. And, to be candid with you, he's a very, very, very humble. He was a very humble dude. He was very grounded. He's super talented. He comes from music royalty. His dad is Berry Gordy, the founder of Motown Records. He kind of like discovered the Jackson 5,
Yeah.
He's in a very influential family, his dad was married to Diana Ross at one time. He's got like a crazy history. And I just really wanted to understand how he got into the music scene. And then ideally I wanted to share with him some pieces of advice for people that basically say you can't do it, right? Like the inspirational part of this. And we kind of scrolled off into some different areas, but I think it was very well received from people that were there. And, he was really cool. And you know what? He lives his brand every day. I mean, what he said he was going to do, he definitely did right there. He later that night when he came out, I mean, they turned the place out. After the show ended, we actually went with him to a second show of the night, and they did it again. And it was a small, like a much more intimate crowd. They actually played with a live band, and, he surrounded himself with incredibly talented people. So, for what you saw as like the show, I mean, like they all go through it pretty hard, and they're literally touring. The next morning they were in Miami, and then they were in New York, and then they're back in Vegas, and then they're back in like Dubai or something. I have no idea,
Yeah, what a schedule.
He's on it right now. Yeah,
for sure. What was something that kind of surprised you a little bit about your connecting and conversation with Redfoo?
Candidly, I think a lot of people just look at me as like a DJ. They don't look at me as like a host or someone that can actually talk. So I think I've received a lot of like very positive feedback from friends and people that I respected that were there. I think the things that like about having that was like a personal thing, but I think about like the interview with him. There were some things that stood out where he's like, corny doesn't or cheesy doesn't exist in my world, like pay attention to your clients. And, it's something that I kind of do here, but, taking the time to understand who you're playing for and what they expect of you. And then like actually doing it, not being above anything, like there's a way that you could play something that's maybe not something you personally enjoy, but make it dope, make it yours, make it whatever. And, I liked his story about how he kind of got involved and in the business, and of course how that all kind of matured for him. So I think that the major takeaway was not only just believing in yourself and hustling for it, but I think it was like really taking the time to understand who's aware. It's a principle that is like so 101, but I feel a lot of people lose sight of it. And then on top of it, he applies the same logic the things he learned or experienced when he was a younger kid going to bar mitzvah parties. That's what he applies to his logic, to his shows in some of the biggest nightlife venues in the world, and I think that's pretty powerful. There's a lot of people that have started off in the mobile world and have evolved into like superstardom. Right. And then there's a lot of people in the world that, kind of get stuck in that like I do the same thing all the time. I do the same thing and it's very good. But, like constantly looking to push the bar, constantly looking to be better, to be bigger, to do different things. And I'm not talking about growing a company or doing different things, just creatively pushing yourself into uncomfort sometimes makes, there's good things that can come from that.
And you can definitely tell that he does that because during that interview, that wasn't the interview with somebody who was burned out. That was an interview of someone who was, kind of like, just going through the motions. You could feel the passion coming from him when he was talking about all the different aspects of it. So it was to a point, it was almost felt like he was fresh and young and alive in essence in the industry. And he's not 20. He's a little older.
If you look at it, like when he came out, he started to dance and kind of tear it up. At the end, we didn't plan that. I wanted to take the photo with him to kind of create some buzz for him, just as like I wanted him to basically post oh, thanks for Mobile Beat. I got like all this love and all that kind of stuff. And when we played Lights Out, and like he did like the whole song and he was dancing, and we took that group selfie and there's people on the stage. I mean, it was energy. It was dope, and that wasn't something that was planned, so. Yeah,
that was good. I really enjoyed.
Definitely roll with it. Yeah,
definitely enjoyed that. I thought last year with Penn, that was a really good segment, and I enjoyed that. But I think I was pleasantly surprised that Redfoo, just in his demeanor, the way he connected with the crowd, his charisma, the way he just brought everyone in and just kind of put him in his pocket and said, "Come along, I've got the story. Come on with me," kind of a thing. It was really kind of a magical time. So you did a good job with that.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Good stuff.
Thank you.
Let's bridge back to the thing that a lot of people saw you do both last year and this year is the DJ side of it. Let's start with going into year 2 of this. You did it last year. You rocked the house. What kind of a process did you have to go through to come in this year and change it up again, or to try to meet or exceed last year?
To be candid with you, we put a lot of time and energy into the development of the show, and I kind of had an idea of what I wanted to do, going in there, but I didn't prepare for it like I did the year before. The year before, I had like sat and thought and kind of like carved through songs. I kind of knew what I was doing each day. This year, and something I learned last year, is that if you go in with a set game plan, it's not going to happen. So, I'm very fortunate that I work a lot. I do a number of events. I'm even through the winter months, like I am hustling, I'm out there, I'm doing different things because I play in some of the nightlife spots that I do. Like I'm very current with my music. I'm very dialed in. I do a lot of different things. So I didn't prepare maybe as much as I would have liked to or what I normally would have done. But I also know, like, going into that situation, the audible is going to be called every day. So like I walked into a room and I kind of like whatever I was feeling that morning is the way that I actually went with the music, and, that last day I'm like, we were thinking about like, what do we want to do? What do we want to do? And Jeff's like, you should do like a rock set. And I'm like, shit, I should do a rock set. No one would do a rock set. And I started off Thursday and I did like that whole morning was all like rock and different stuff. And I mean, there's some people that I just were like literally looking at me like, I don't even know what you're doing, but I know that song and that was pretty cool, so I got a lot of love from a lot of different people. I'm very, 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 very thankful for that, and same for the nightlife thing, the event with Redfoo. I didn't pre-stack a list. I kind of knew what Foo was going to do. I kind of had an idea of what Vic was going to do. And then like right before we opened the doors, I kind of went over a couple tracks and I just kind of played for what I felt that day, So it was an awesome experience. It's very interesting to play for that many peers. I often do a lot of other DJs and event owners and event company owners and people that are in the business and do their private events. But when you're in a room full of DJs,
it's a little different.
It's a little different.
Maybe it's a lot different.
I see. So I see the question about like music and stuff like that, and it's hard. I spend at least a half hour of every one of my days mining and digging for tracks because you can belong to every pool in existence, but it doesn't mean you're going to find the right stuff. And I don't even necessarily think it's about having the right tools. It's how you organize it, right? I can give anyone the same 10 tracks I'm going to play it, but my interpretation of those 10 tracks would be very different. There are some pools that I really like. There's a number of like blog sites that are out there that are very good. I don't use just one source. I think I belong to every pool that's probably out there, Yeah. If you go to like let's say a DJ City, for example, right? They have a ton of great stuff on there. It's updated every day. It's super content rich. Those guys are super dope. They're all over the world. But you can go on that site and you can go on there, 3 days and not find anything that you would actually use, So I think, it's hard to answer. It's hard for me to say, like, where do you get your music from? Because I get it from everywhere, and I don't just stop. So I think the way to kind of like go about it would be really define the style that you play, and then kind of like there's some pools that are more heavy in certain styles or genres than others. So I think that's kind of like the way I would probably like guide someone. You know what I mean?
And I think I've heard that from other people is I don't think there's one service or one pool out there that works for everyone. There's some people who have, and I don't even think there's one that you just exclusively use. Everyone who's out there performing. I mean, I have 3 different that I get content from on a regular basis. And talking to other guys who are doing some club work and doing some custom mixes and some reed drum work, they're pulling from 6 or 7 different pools on a weekly basis.
Yeah, it's not uncommon. This is like, hold on, I'll show you real quick. This is like my money drive. This is like, that's my life right there. Almost lost it there. That's a hard drive in here. It's an 8 terabyte hard drive that's completely like loaded, with all different stuff that I've collected over the years, and like that music library is constantly evolving and growing. And it's not just me that does it here at SCE. I mean, we have a universe of people that are super talented and hunting for like their signature sound stuff, and we're always kind of on it. I spend a half hour every day. Yesterday was Easter. I was doing music for my half hour a day, like looking for whatever. I found one track, and that one track is going to light up the nightlife event I'm doing on Saturday night after the wedding that I'm doing. So I can't wait to open with it. It's one track for a half hour. That's what I got.
But if it's the right track and you can use it in the right spot.
I wish I had it last week. I tell you that.
Now I'm curious about what the track is, but
I'll PM it to you.
Okay. Cool. Somebody asked about which 360 cam have you used? Have you used one yourself? I saw quite a few of them there.
We're into them. We're trying to incorporate them a little bit more. I'm not entirely happy with all the quality. We posted one from the show for the opening, so you can see the whole opening, kind of like from the DJ booth perspective.
Yeah.
That was done with the Theta S, and that's Jeff's camera. I used the VC360. I'm actually waiting for the Nikon Key Mission camera to come out, and that's like within the next month it'll be out. That's going to be the camera that hopefully elevates the 360 cam game. You know what? 360 cams are really good, and they're really good in like natural light and like well lit areas. But like in our events, when it's darker, if it's nightlife, if it's a wedding, if you're not like somewhere with incredible like natural light, they get grainy and
really
they look good, and it's a cool experience. But I feel like that's the future, and it's still kind of like in its infancy stages.
Very much so. When digital cameras first came out, and it's like, oh wow, outside, look at this beautiful picture of the scenery, and then you bring it inside, and it's like, oh my gosh, what happened?
Yeah.
Somebody's asking for remix pools. If there was one that you could recommend, that you've found a lot of quality remix, I think going that direction.
I think for like the private event world, DJ City's probably like the most broad, I guess, that's out there. I think they do a great job. Those guys are pretty solid. They also release a lot of content. So if you're into like listening to other people's mixes, they release a mix every day on Mixcloud, and they're 20-minute quick mixes, but they constantly have content coming out, and they do a good job. I think it really depends on like what you're doing. There's a lot of people that play remixes, but they play horrible versions of okay songs. I think everyone in our industry should have like a promo only level service that gets you kind of like in the door with current radio friendly mixes in all different formats. I think that's number one. And if you get it beyond that, I would probably go into like I'd probably go into like the DJ City world, and you can get like all that rock stuff in there and all that,
even the country ones. He had asked about country remix. I have not seen country remixes. I mean, there's an occasional one here or there on some of the services, but I haven't seen a country remix since about the mid 90s is when there was a couple of them that were really hot with making it.
There's a bunch of people that still do them though.
Really?
I think Full Tilt has that on their service or whatever. Yeah. Okay. There's like a whole service on one of the more popular kind of like known services. Skills is the guy to look for. He's dope.
Interesting. I've not seen those, and those were what I would use when I was doing sound for like parades or doing if there were a kids' day out there with inflatables and you needed to do a fairground area.
I play a lot of like my own stuff. Like I saw someone, mentioned my Jackson 5 to Crisscross. That's like one of my edits that I kind of like crafted. So I took like 3 or 4 edits that I liked, and I kind of made like my own edit that I play from. I do a lot of that kind of stuff too. For a long time, I did a lot of like bootlegs and white labels until I couldn't really continue to do that anymore.
No, I hear you there. One question. This isn't not from the crew. We'll let them. If you guys have any other questions, please. We're going to wrap things up here in a few minutes. For some DJs, this was a conversation we had in Las Vegas. The amount of a song that you play. Some guys basically, I want to play the radio edit, and I'm going to play it from beginning to end. Some guys they don't do it that way. And what's your feeling on it when it comes to performing? And let's put it at a wedding, which a lot of guys that are watching do weddings. Do you at a wedding do a lot of mixing and taking bits and pieces of songs, or do you do more of the playthrough?
Nah, I mean, like the songs that I probably play all the way out would be like their first dance if I play the entire song, and the parent dances, and that's probably it. I mean, like people that hire me for their private events are looking for a certain style and a certain thing. Like I actively play dinner. Like I'm on it. I'm even take like the down tempo stuff and make it like revived. That's my brand. It's what I do. Right. Like I rarely play a song for a minute and a half. Unless you have everyone on the dance floor singing Journey. Of course, I'm not going to cut that down. You know what I'm saying? Like I think there's no one way to do it, and I think you have to be able to adapt to the room, right? Like if you're in the Northeast, it's all about content. Like I can go out and play. I can go out and play in a private event or a nightlife event and do 40 to 60 songs in an hour, or more. And that's like not That's not uncommon, you know. But you're playing a song 30 seconds, 45 seconds, a minute and a half, and you're constantly moving, you know. Even at the event with Redfoo, I mean, I was in and out of those songs. Some of those songs were so quick that the longest song I probably played was that Jackson 5 mashup that I did, you know, and that's because it's actually like 3 songs built into one, you know. But it wasn't any more than 2 minutes, you know. It's like I like to play fast. That's just like my style, you know. Mm-hmm. I also like to scratch, and I scratch at weddings. And there's a lot of people who say, "Oh, you don't need to do that. You don't need to do this." And I've done this, and beat mixing is not important. Fine. Everyone has their own way of dealing things. Everyone has their own way of doing things. Like for me, I couldn't do what I do if I didn't have those tools on my chest. I couldn't attract the type of clients that I have if I didn't have those tools on my chest.
Right.
I could still do weddings. It would be very different. You know, the experience that I try to create, and you can go on the SCE website. You can Google me, look at my bio, look at my private, look at my own personal site, and just see the type of events that I do. And, you know, I'm very lucky to have kind of like, you know, brought the nightlife kind of like world to the private event space and done it and been successful, you know, so far. Very, very lucky, very humble, very honored to do what I do every day, you know. Yeah.
And that whole the way you perform and your style and such brings us right back to the branding thing. It's part of your brand.
Yeah.
And there's a circle.
Nice circle. Perfect. Good.
Jason, if people want to get a hold of you, what's the best way for them to get in touch?
They can hit me up on Facebook. I really don't look at my messages too often on Facebook, to be honest with you. I have a ton in there still from like 2 weeks ago. The best way to kind of get a hold of me would be Instagram or Snapchat. That's where I spend all my time. I mean, I do look at Facebook and I do update things, but like Instagram and Snapchat is where I put all my time these days. So you could just do and my name, Jason Jani. And while you're at it, if you're following stuff, you could follow my company at seeventgroup.com. You know, I'd appreciate the love, and I'll follow back and do all that stuff. Just keep the content creative, or I drop you, because I don't like when people just don't put content up there, you know.
Yep. Oh, and somebody shared the hashtag Ask Jason Jani.
Yeah, so that was like a cool little promo that we did. I know that, John, you said if you can get to 3 months to keep it going, that's when you know. We did like just about 50 episodes, and it just started getting challenging with questions because I wasn't getting enough content. And I would keep it going. And my media guys here, Pags, and those guys are asking me to continue it and keep it going. And they've been kind of like policing the YouTube channel and getting all the stuff. I would totally be down to continue it and to keep it moving. I just need to get like fresh content from people to kind of like help, you know, because I don't want to put content out there just to put it. I want to have some kind of value, you know. For sure. So if you guys have got questions, you can, if you would like, you can put them down in the comment section down below this video, or you can go out to Twitter, hashtag AskJasonJani. That gets over to those guys, and they can put those into some kind of a sequence and get you ready for another recording session. Jason, I think that is about what we have for tonight. Awesome. Thank you, my friend. I appreciate you being on. And again, I enjoyed your work at Mobile Beat Las Vegas, not only as a DJ, and truthfully, you did a nice job with that, but really what stood out to me was, again, that time with Redfoo, the way you guys just had a nice interaction and worked back and forth and really just put on a very good presentation there. So, yeah, I appreciate it, John. Thank you so much. And thank you for everyone that tuned in and check this out. I appreciate it. Yeah. So if we're not connected, join up with me. I'd love to connect with you on social media stuff. And John, anytime you need anything, I'm always here for you, man. Thank you so much.
Sounds great. It's very good. Thank you guys for watching. If you have any questions, again, put those in the comments down below, not on the right side, because those get lost and we will not see those. So wait a few minutes and put them down below. But this is our Monday Night Live chat. Once again, thank you for watching. Good night, everyone.